Okay, so where does this leave us? We now have the ability to change entire species at will. Should we? Are we gods now?
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed. Yeah. And of course this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. When you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. And, of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it, and that's what we want to do in Davos next year.
Talk about technology and how the ways it can be deployed, that contribute to growth rather than exacerbate unemployment. How will that implement itself?
It's a big question mark, because there is a fear that technology, robots, just to take one
you gain
element,
productivity from machines.
Exactly, and it replaces maybe the workforce or jobs faster than we can replace them with new jobs. Not everybody can be a robot polisher and so on, so there will be new jobs.
Hola a todos, bienvenidos a un nuevo video, espero que estén muy pero que muy bien. Acaban de escuchar al personaje que ya conocen, fundador del Foro Económico Mundial, promotor del gran reinicio Klaus Schwab, diciendo que se va a combinar la edición genética en humanos, probablemente en el futuro con la llamada cuarta revolución industrial, es decir, la implementación de la inteligencia artificial y las máquinas. Estas dos tecnologías son completamente diferentes, pero vean, ahora ya no están aparte la una de la otra, sino que el futuro es para ellos ponerlas juntas. Recuerden todas las implicaciones éticas que hay, ya que prácticamente los ricos tendrían acceso a estas mejoras humanas, mientras que los pobres no. Así que vamos a ver una recopilación y traducción de personas que hablan de esto, específicamente Jennifer Doudna, que es una de las científicas que trabaja con el Foro Económico Mundial, diciendo que aunque hay debate sobre este tema de la edición genética humana, estamos cerca de mejorar a los seres humanos, lo cual traería varias implicaciones y ahí pueden sacar sus propias conclusiones. Vean.
Imagine that we had a tool whereby we could actually fix individual mutations in DNA, much like you would do with a word processor to cut and paste and edit text. What if we had a text editor for DNA in cells? And it turns out that now we do. But we have to also consider that the CRISPR technology can be used for things like enhancement. Imagine that we could try to engineer humans that have enhanced properties such as stronger bones or less susceptibility to cardiovascular disease. Or even to have properties that we would consider maybe to be desirable, like a different eye color or to be taller, things like that. Designer humans, if you will. Right now, the genetic information to understand what types of genes would give rise to these traits are mostly not known. But it's important to know that the CRISPR technology gives us a tool to make such changes once that knowledge becomes available. So, genome-engineered humans are not with us yet, but this is no longer science fiction. Genome-engineered animals and plants are happening right now. And this puts in front of all of us a huge responsibility to consider carefully both the unintended consequences as well as the intended impacts of a scientific breakthrough. And it was through our research to understand the activity of this protein Cas9 that we realized that we could harness its function as a genetic engineering technology, a way for scientists to delete or insert specific bits of DNA into cells with incredible precision. that would offer opportunities to do things that really haven't been possible in the past. The CRISPR technology has already been used to change the DNA in the cells of mice and monkeys, other organisms as well. So we can think of the Cas9 RNA sentinel complex like a pair of scissors that can cut DNA. It makes a double-stranded break in the DNA helix. And importantly, this complex is programmable. So it can be programmed to recognize particular DNA sequences and make a break in the DNA at that site. As I'm going to tell you now, we recognized that that activity could be harnessed for genome engineering to allow cells to make a very precise change to the DNA at the site where this break was introduced. That's sort of analogous to the way we use a word processing program to fix a typo in a document. Genome engineering is actually not new. It's been in development since the 1970s. We've had technologies for sequencing DNA, for copying DNA, and even for manipulating DNA. And these technologies were very promising, but the problem was that they were either inefficient or they were difficult enough to use that most scientists had not adopted them for use in their own laboratories, or certainly for many clinical applications. So the opportunity to take a technology like CRISPR and utilize it has appeal because of its relative simplicity.
How do you get your trait to spread? This is where it gets clever. You'd end up with a perpetual motion machine for gene editing. And that's exactly what happened. So, what does this mean? For one thing, it means that we have a very powerful, but also somewhat alarming new tool. Assuming that your trait does not have a big evolutionary handicap, like a mosquito that can't fly, the CRISPR-based gene drive will spread the change relentlessly until it is in every single individual in the population.
Así que amigos, este ha sido el trabajo de traducción y recopilación de información, así que estaremos viendo qué saldrá más adelante. No olviden comentar qué pasará en las zonas más remotas, por ejemplo, de Latinoamérica. Hay muchos pueblitos, lugares en donde todavía hay gente del campo que está alejada de todo este tipo de tecnologías. ¿Qué creen ustedes que toda esta agenda traerá a aquellas personas que están en estos lugares remotos? ¿Creen que los alcanzará? Imagínense un poblado allí aislado. ¿Cómo afectarían estos cambios a las personas que están menos enteradas de todo esto? No olviden suscribirse, compartir para más videos como este y estamos conectados.